All right, you're going to see how much love really goes for you guys as cadets from me, Dr. T, because I don't like bookkeeping problems, and this is a bookkeeping problem. So here, they're leading you up to, this is a great problem, it's leading you up to row reduction and what row reduction is. So you've already learned one way to represent this as a matrix form and hit both sides by an inverse. Doing that is not as scalable as doing something we call row reducing, because row reducing gives you full answers, not just the solution when it exists. The other method only gives you the solution when it exists. So I'm going to label my equations 1 and 2. So this is E1 and this is E2. That's what's meant by these symbols here, E1 and E2. The first thing I'm asked to do is to take equation 1 and multiply it by 1/5. And then make that, this little arrow means make that the new equation 1. So here's equation 1. I rewrote it. And then I multiply E1 by 1/5 because they told me to. And what I get is that equals x1, the 5's cancel. 15 divided by 5 is 3. And 125 divided by 25, divided by 5 is 25. You have to be careful with bookkeeping. So what that means, my new equation is x1 plus 3x2 is equal to 25. That's my new E1. And down here below, I replace E2 with E2. I didn't do anything, so there's no change for E2. And actually, it's nice that they're making you rewrite this. You're not going to get a muscle cramp with typing this in more than once. Now, I do the second step. I do the second step to my new equations. My new E1 is this thing above, and my new E2 is the second equation below. And I'm going to use this formula to change E2. So here's E1 and E2 written. I take the first equation. Actually, I did it like this. I took E2, there's E2 right here, and I took -11 and multiply it by E1. I do a lot of things to keep myself from making errors in bookkeeping problems, and it still doesn't help. But let's see, I take -11 and multiply it times the whole of E1. So this second equation is -11 times E1. And that changes some of the signs in here when I do that. So I took the 3 and multiplied it by -11 and I get -33. I took the 25 and multiplied it by -11 and I get -275. So I have to make sure to do this all the way across. And then I add. And I get -8x2 is equal to -104. That's my new E2. E1 won't change. It's E2 that's going to change. Whatever is after the arrow is what changes. So right here you see I have -8x2 is equal to -104. So there's no x's in that equation. So it's 0. The coefficient of x2 is -8. And the coefficient, the right-hand side is -104. And the top equation, E1, stays the same because I didn't do anything to alter E1. I was asked to alter E2. All right, so next one. Here's my new E1 and E2 in blue at the top. I'm now asked to take -1/8 E2 and make that my new E2. I'm not going to take another sheet to do this. What's going to happen is if I multiply E2 through by -1/8, this 0 stays 0, this -8 becomes 1, and the -104 divided by 8, and explain it right here, becomes 13. And my first equation remains unchanged because I was only asked, this tells you which row is changing. Last one. My patience is running thin. The last one. So E1 is equation 1 up here, E2 is equation 2 down here. They're asking me to take E1 and subtract 3E2 and make that my new E1. So I'm going to write down E1, that's the positive equation. And below it, I'm going to multiply equation 2 by -3. So I multiply every single coefficient by -3. And then I add. And I get x1 plus 0x2 is equal to -14. So here's my E1. My new E1 is this. And I know it's E1 that's changed because they told me so. And I put those numbers up. 1 is x, that coefficient of x1, 0 is the coefficient of x2, and minus 14 is the right-hand side. And from this, I can now take down the answer, because if I actually extract this, this means x1 is equal to minus 14, and x2 is equal to 13. And I put in the old school double underline ants.